Thanks to everyone who said they couldn't hear me. You guys can hear me now. I know you can. I'm so dumb. Okay. Anyway. So anyway, what I was saying before was, welcome to my official election prediction video. I don't want to make this video. I don't want to say I hate this election. I hate the astrology of this election. It makes it really difficult. And so anyway, I don't really go live all too often, but I wanted to for this because like I need to record a video and I really just wanted to share like my thoughts on this. And so, is my sound messed up still, or does my sound still sound good? It should sound good. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut to the chase with my opinion on how I think this is going to go. Okay. And then I'm going to explain the details around this. So number one, I want to emphasize, and I can't say this enough, I am planning on being wrong. I'm planning on being wrong. Okay. Why do I say that? One, I've gotten predictions right, before, but this is rather difficult to parse astrologically. And so I'm just like, if I get this wrong, I'm fine. I don't want to risk, like, oh, like this is exactly what I think. And I'm really just doing this for fun right now. So don't take my word with a grain of salt. I'm planning on being wrong. And if I'm right, I'm right. I'm not too worried about it. But number one, I'm wrong. Number two, I have two forks of how this election is going to go, okay? Number one, I think Trump's going to win. Number two, and that's if there's not a contingent election. And when I say contingent election, I'll explain what that is, and I've done it before. But there's the contingent election side of things, and then there's what exactly other things that can entail the election coming into question. So let's say it's not let's say it's either a contingent election or the election comes into question in any way, Kamala wins. That's how this is going. I have a lot of reasons as I explain this. And again, what's hard is I'm a human being, right? I hope you guys understand this past year has been, I'm a huge American politics nerd and American history nerd. This has been one of the craziest political years in all of this country's history. It has genuinely been a lot to see. The fact that Kamala wasn't elected was pretty much anointed. Biden drops out. And again, just to kind of give you guys some background, I've been saying Trump's going to win when it was with Biden. When Kamala stepped up, which I made a video predicting that, but I got the time wrong. So for me, I don't like, a lot of people are like, Cameron, you got this right. But let's see, when it's Kamala landslide, don't be fooled by these early charts. I really find these comments really funny. Because this always tells me I can kind of just assume something out of this, which is there seems to be this idea that everyone on the left, it's like, oh, if you vote for Trump voters are Nazis or white supremacists. And it's really insane to say that 80 million people are white supremacists. They're not. And it doesn't take a lot to really look at, Kamala, the amount of people that are voting for her. It doesn't necessarily seem like, oh, she has this great policy or she has this great track record. It's simply she's a black woman. She's the first woman president, which I think that's like, if you want to vote for like the first woman president, I think that's fine, I guess. But there's just this level of, she's not that stellar, and it seems to be more so a vote against Trump. That's just from my view, okay? And I think there's just this lack of understanding things. And again, I'm trying not to go too much in. It's so hard to not read into the psychology of this. Because, it's just, everything is, we're going to get a dictator when Trump comes back, even though we had Trump for 4 years and literally not everything was fine. But these past 4 years have been, I don't know a single person who is like, doing better now than they were 4 years ago, unless, they have like, they're like a boomer with all their money in the stock market. But anyway, nonetheless, what I wanted to get to was, I predicted Trump was going to win it if it was with Biden. And the reason I stuck with that prediction was because, hold on, I'm going to get my YouTube channel up here. So let's do this real fast. Oh, camera. We want to do that. And then we want to do Safari. There we go. So I predicted this over a year ago. And my thing is with this is I predicted she was going to come up in, I think it was like March or April, maybe May. And I was wrong about that. So I totally just like I threw that one out the window. I wasn't expecting July. And so that to me was actually kind of wild that it was that late in the game. And this is still pretty crazy that she did this. And again, not that that's a crazy thing, but what I'm wanting to say is that the reason I'm saying this is at that point it was still Trump v. Biden, and as that prediction waned and I wasn't correct about the timing, which again, like I'm glad I was able to say I think Kamala will come up. I still thought Kamala was going to actually be president, and so I didn't really get that prediction right. Like I'm okay with being wrong about that. But that changes this a lot. And so anyway, again, I know I'm going to make a lot of people sorry, I'm trying to read through the comments. And I know my audience, I'm going to make a lot of you guys mad. Now, I'm a human being. I have a bias. And here's the thing. I want you guys to just give, rather than being like, oh, you're the enemy, Cameron. You're my neighbor. And because we think differently, you must be a fascist. That's how half of this country is. It's so ridiculous. That's how you guys act. If you were Cam White, is there anything the Kamala Harris campaign would speak to you with? Do you really think do you think really anything about the Kamala Harris campaign speaks to me, a straight white male entrepreneur? No. And that's okay. That's okay. But like when people are like, oh, he's a like Trump person, I'm like, I lean a lot more conservative, but like, do I got a choice in this world right now? Or am I a white guy for Harris? There's really nothing that speaks to me about that. However, a lot has changed in the past 4 years, and I just know a lot of people have switched parties. I know a lot of people have changed things, and let me go into what's it called? I want to show you guys the astrology real fast. So someone says when the dust settles, it'll be J.D. Vance. I think that's really interesting. But here's why I'm saying a contingent election, okay? Now, hear me out. And again, I could be completely wrong about this. I'm okay if I'm wrong about this because here's the other thing, guys. Like, I think what's really hard about speaking about this stuff is I think it is something objective to say that if we all think that your vote and the voting system in this country is not in any way slightly rigged is just kind of insane to think about. It really is. Now, am I saying that the 2020 election was stolen or this was stolen or there's all like, it's not what I'm saying, but to think that this is completely 100% organic votes we're talking about here, you're just wrong. Like the US we're literally the bad guys. We own the world. We rig the elections in the favor of what institutions like corporations and all these other things want. And you don't think we're susceptible to that. So again, I don't really necessarily, and this is why, again, I'm like, I think, hate to break to you, Cam. Hey, thanks. You're supporting a racist then, I guess. Your attention span is making me money, so great. I just saw that. But anyway, what's it called? There is to think that everything is organic is just not true. It just isn't. I don't think they're going to let Trump be president again. I don't think so. And that would make sense. They've tried to kill him. And you guys have to understand, like, they tried to kill Trump. And not just once. And when I say they, what does they mean? Well, that could literally just be again, was the first kid some sort of a PSYOP FBI agent kind of a thing? Maybe there was this weird thing where like, I think it was the FBI agent was going back and forth to this house like the week before the shooting. That was a little weird, but let's not go into the conspiracy stuff. We have 2 at least confirmed attempts, and they allowed that. Like, you guys know that, right? And so I just genuinely don't think they're going to let Trump be president. For the people that are just joining, by the way, let me just cut to the chase. I would rather you guys rewind this from the beginning. But I think Trump would win, but I think there's going to be some sort of a contingent election or a questioning of the election in which Kamala becomes the winner. And I'm stating this opening with, I think I'm going to be wrong. I think I'm going to be wrong, but I wanted to be an astrologer and share my opinions about this. So anyway, I say all that to say, like, you guys have to understand, we killed 1 million Iraqis. I want you to understand the genocide that's going on in Palestine, we did. Before Israel, I mean, that's kind of actually up for debate, that starting, but we killed 1 million Iraqis because Dick Cheney wanted oil. And Dick Cheney supports Kamala Harris. Kind of wild. Really a wild take if you actually kind of think about it. We killed 1 million innocent Iraqis before Dick Cheney's oil company. It's you have to understand, we act as if we live in this country that is, we're the good guys and we're all about promoting democracy and that's what the Democrats stand for, and that hasn't been true. You know, like, even for example, like something I find really interesting about what I find really interesting about people who lean really Democratic is they really care about abortion, and that's totally fine. But the Democrats have been running on protecting abortion rights for like the past 30 or 40 years, and they haven't done a goddamn thing about it. Like, Kamala Harris is going to say, I'm going to run on abortion. She's not going to do anything about it because they haven't in the past 30 years. So again, if you have a fat, lazy slob sitting on the couch saying, oh, I'm going to work out tomorrow, I'm going to work out tomorrow, I'm going to work out tomorrow, and they say that for 30 years, you think they're going to really do that tomorrow? I don't think so. And so it's just kind of not this, oh, it's our votes actually matter in that case. And if you guys want to vote, please go and vote. I'm not saying you shouldn't at all. It's just you have to have some actual realistic perspective of what functions in this country. And here's why I think there's a contingent election. Okay, let's jump into it. So here is the Tuesday, November 5th. Mercury is in detriment. Okay, Mercury will enter shadow later the next day. So Mercury is going to be in shadow in Sagittarius. We will then go, so that means Mercury, which is about numbers, counting things, right? As Mercury goes into detriment, it's in detriment, right? So the counts are already super weird. It goes into shadow. So it doesn't, and here's the other thing. If I would be damned, I would be literally mind blown if let's say Trump won and Kamala was like fair and square. I would be mind blown, and I would actually think that would deserve some respect, but I kind of doubt it. They both have Mars and Leo, both Trump and Kamala. I don't think, and they're both full moons too. I like them going toe to toe, and also like, I always thought it was really funny when people were like, oh, Trump won the first Kamala Harris. It was like Kamala Trump debate. Dude, Kamala smoked him. And that's what's funny about Trump to me is he's kind of easy. Like, she just fucking laid trap after trap and Trump just took the bait every time. And while I do think Kamala has some like actual, real, genuine motivation behind her, I don't think the emotion behind Kamala Harris is as strong as the reason, because you have to understand the reason why. I'm going to put money on the reason why people are voting for Trump is much stronger than the reason people are voting for Kamala. Not that like their arguments are better, but they're like emotional intention behind it, if that makes sense. But anyway, so Mercury goes into shadow. Literally the day. And this isn't like 1980 or 1992 when we as Americans were much more connected. We live in a world in which, again, someone just called me a racist in the group chat because I just thought people were voting for Kamala because she's a black woman. And I'm sorry, that's objectively true. It literally is. A lot of people voted for Obama because he was a black man going for president. And like I said, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do, and that's fine. But again, like, we can't even have a conversation. Like, again, is Trump a narcissist? Yeah. Is Trump ridiculous? Yes. Is he a dictator? We have 4 years to go off of where I didn't see anything. I was just saying this earlier today. The craziest thing that Trump did, in my opinion, was the Muslim ban. Like, that was just genuinely kind of like super 20th century president kind of a move. Again, she's not black, she's Indian, whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. Again, it's not white is the most important thing. So anyway, and she's half Indian. It's just, again, it doesn't even matter at this point. It's just she's a not white woman, because again, white women like to be, PC. It's you're just as in the grand scheme of racial hierarchies in cultural Marxism, all white people bad. Anyway, so we have this Mercury into shadow process. And what I was trying to say is we live in this divided world right now. Like, you don't think this isn't going to come into contention? I don't think we see things for a while. I don't think we see an actual, what's the word I'm looking for? An election finish, whatever the word, I cannot think of the word, for a minute. In the meantime, we have Mars going into Leo here. And then by the beginning of December, a whole month later, it goes retrograde. Like I said, here's the issue that I have right now. And again, for people that are just joining in, my 4 things is: number 1, I think I'm wrong. Number 2, I think Trump wins, but also more than likely, I think there's going to be a contingent election, and there's going to be contention around the election. And if there is, and it does go to a contingent, I think Kamala wins, but I think I'm wrong. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is I have made a lot of talk about like Civil War, World War III videos. And something I've been thinking a lot about is, what does that look like under Trump versus Kamala? Because that happens no matter what, right? Does, let's say Trump winning get the left to like revolt? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Now with Kamala winning, I would make a caveat, under suspicious circumstances, make the right revolt. Yes. Under suspicious circumstances. Now again, if like Kamala, it's like, let's say if Kamala gets like 400 electoral votes, then it's like, okay. But anyway, nonetheless, I have gone back and forth with this because I was talking to SJ Anderson about this. So we have this Mars retrograde, right? The last few times Mars has gone retrograde in Cancer and in Leo, a Democrat won, or at least a Democrat was in office. So again, I'm just talking about transits right now. We're not even going into their charts yet. We're going to get there. This is going to be a little bit of a long live stream. And again, by the way, like I've told people, like I lean a lot more conservative. If you are liberal or left, you're welcome here. And I hope you fucking assholes in the chat both ways can be a little bit fucking nice, but I get it. People are fucking dicks and I can't do anything. LOL, did you say cultural Marxism, you fucking loser? That's really funny. Yeah. Communism was the worst fucking thing that's ever happened in this country and in the world. And 50 million people dead from China because of that shit, and 10 million in Russia that no one talks about, and you see literal politicians supporting it. And yes, it is cultural Marxism. All of this stuff that you see in terms of, again, oppressed versus oppressor, which is the dynamic in the race and in the gender contention in this culture wars. It's cultural Marxism. That is literally the root of it. That is not a trigger word. That is just straight up. Sorry, I study this shit. I'm a nerd. I just straight up know more than you. But anyway, I think this is emotional for you, so it's clouded astrology. Yeah, but here's the deal. You want to know why that's not true? So the past few Mars retrogrades in Cancer, at least, because Mars retrogrades aren't perfect, like they're a little bit all over the place. A Democrat was in office, but let's look at, AstroGold still doesn't have a search on their thing. Hold on, let me pull this up. So let me pull up Donald Trump's chart. Where the fuck is he? There he is. So we're gonna pull up Donald Trump's chart, and then we're gonna pull up Kamala Harris. Give me just a second here. And I want to show you why. Like I've talked to some astrologers in the background, and a lot of people are like, this is not easy. Look, so they both have Mars and Leo, which again is very interesting to me. But here's where it comes down to. This is what everyone's talking about. Kamala Harris, this is her lot of arrows. She is in her peak L1 period in Zodiacal releasing. So without doing a whole deep dive into Zodiacal releasing, this is a timing technique. It's really accurate. It's really good. You can get a lot of things from it. We're looking for the plus signs. The plus signs represent peak activity. And this is related to career. And we're looking at Kamala Harris's chart. She hit the peak of her career in December of 2020. So by this nature, she's like, this is the peak of her career. Now, is that vice president? Then going into this, and then does she continue to be? And I mean, again, she's in a L2 peak period from here. And again, this is really promising. This is really promising for her. The hard part, and again, here's the other thing. There's a difference between, does she get elected? Listen to what I'm saying here. Really listen to what I'm saying deeply. There's a difference between she gets elected and she becomes the next president. Does that make sense? There's a difference between she wins all the electoral votes, genuinely more people in this country and in the Electoral College support Kamala Harris, versus she becomes the next president, the first woman president, the first whatever Indian, whatever the fuck it is. There's a difference between that. And so this, at a minimum, I don't want to would say she wins the election. I'd say she becomes the next president. I think that would be a better term to use here. Now let's look at Donald Trump's. Let's look at Donnie Boy's. So let's put this in context. So this is going back to Zodiacal releasing. We're looking again at Donald Trump's career. Now, mind you, Donald Trump, billionaire, celebrity, already was the president. You have to understand, Donald Trump has been one of the most powerful people ever alive in very interesting ways. So he had a peak period with his career between January of 1973, December of 1980. He goes into his next peak period, April 20th of 2025. Now, these peak periods, they're not all equal. Think of a mountain range. There's multiple peaks on a mountain range, but there's one that's the tallest. For Donald Trump specifically, it is Leo. So let's think about this for a minute. We have someone who has been a billionaire, celebrity, and president, and he still hasn't hit the peak of his career. What else can you do? I can't think of anything besides going to space. This, to me, and I said this before he got shot. I said, I wonder if he gets shot here. I wonder if this is when he becomes a martyr. And if I'm not mistaken, so we were here. Also, he enters the L2 peak period, November of 2024. That was also too. He was in that Taurus peak period when what's it called? He was running the last time. But I wanted to go to here, and then that's in November. So that's literally a couple days after. Where were we at? We were August of 23. Yeah, let's say June of 24, July. It was a Scorpio period. Okay. I wasn't sure where he was, but anyway. So I look at this and I just want to ask, what else happens to Donald Trump? Something else is happening to him. Which again makes me question what else is going on. Now, again, and the reason I think Donald Trump wins, but then it goes to Kamala, is the sentiment I have seen is I know more people right now that are open to it and they're voting for it. And again, people on the left want to think that everyone who votes for Donald Trump is a white supremacist fascist, which is just genuinely like, it's just genuinely sad, to be honest, that someone can just take that for granted, because again, they're just repeating whatever they hear on the news. They don't actually believe that because they don't have any evidence for it. But nonetheless, Donald Trump, though, is going to have Mars retrograde over his Venus and over his Saturn. I don't like that for going to prison. I don't like that for getting in trouble. I don't like that. It was, in fact, during one of the last times Mars went retrograde here. Oh, gosh. I did so much research on this. And again, I've done a lot of research on this. And again, as I've done more and more, it's more and more confusing. There is a part of me that thinks Kamala will win. There's another part of me, though, that, again, when I say Kamala wins, I just don't think it's Kamala wins. I think Kamala becomes the next president. His hateful rhetoric is bad. I find these comments funny because I'm not vaccinated. And I was told I'm not allowed to have healthcare or rights and that I should be in prison because I didn't want to get vaccinated. I kind of think that hateful rhetoric is also kind of bad too. And no, his hateful rhetoric really isn't all that crazy. I think both sides are genuinely monsters. I think it's unfortunate Donald Trump is a Republican and that he's not more independent, but that's just the nature of the beast. Can't hate the player, gotta hate the game. But anyway, I don't know if you guys can hear what's going on outside. There's like a marching band. It's hard to not. Anyway, I'm moving. I'm leaving this house. I cannot do the noise anymore. Anyway, so there's a big part of me that has thought Kamala's going to win. And I do think that she might be the next president, but I wonder how this is going to go. And again, the reason why is, have you guys ever heard too? I've been getting into this a lot more of, what's this fucker's name? Martin Armstrong's economic cycles, economic confidence model. So here's another interesting thing. Here we go. So you guys should get interested in this. So this is a big deal. I've been really getting into this lately. Martin Armstrong, pretty much this investor guy, got a lot of stuff right. He pretty much made this economic cycle based off of, again, like just cycles, back in the 70s or 80s. And look at this. Look how correct he was here. Top of the market, 1989, bottom of 94, top 98, bottom 2002. This is where I'm not as familiar economically, but again, we have the dot-com crash. Top of the market, beginning of 2007, bottom 2011. This is a little wild. And again, he made this around here. He made this model around here. He started predicting this. Top of the market, 2015. Now, what's interesting is it didn't go down from 2015 to 2020, but at the very beginning of 2020, 2020.5, COVID. And again, I mean, it was literally just drop. Now we're at the peak, 2024, and we're going towards here. And this is, again, where World War III really kicks off, in my opinion. And that's the other reason, like, for me, like, again, I'm biased. Like, I lean more conservative, is genuinely Trump has shown with, like, his foreign policy was way better than anyone. And that's something that is just a fucking fact. Like, his foreign policy is genuinely great in terms of actually keeping peace. And I would argue that that is a big deal, because then we shoot off to the moon at once 2028. And so there's, again, I look at this and I go, what does going down look like? Does that look like, again, Kamala Harris being president? Does that look like Trump being president? So again, part of me is like, I think Kamala will end up being the president. I just don't like saying that she's gonna win. Does that make sense? And it's not because, again, like, no, I don't really like her, but there's a part of this that's like, this isn't just straight up a clean cut astrology thing. This is like, and again, so I've already made videos about this, but let's go ahead and look at the future. Like, at a minimum, the earliest we see a civil war or or World War III, I'm going to argue this is more Civil War stuff, is this Mars-Uranus conjunction. I think there's going to be a terrorist attack on July 4th of 2026. That's my opinion. You also get into 2028. 2028 is genuinely wild. We have a Venus retrograde with a Mercury retrograde in Gemini. The last time we had a Venus retrograde in Gemini was literally during the George Floyd riots. Yes, they were riots. Cities were burning. I don't know why that's still up for debate anymore. Again, if January 6th can be an insurrection, where the cops and the police let everybody in, then we can call the George Floyd protest riots, because they were riots. But we have another Mars-Uranus conjunction here. Again, this is also going to be this is just war stuff, to be honest. And again, this is why I think this is what scares me about, I think Trump wins, but I think Kamala ends up being the president. Does that make sense? I think there's a contingent election. There's too much war. There's too much war. And it's hard for me to just think that Trump is going to start all this, because he was the most anti-war president we've had in a genuine long time, and that is fact. Is war good, Cam? That's a bait question. Yeah. And so anyway, I look at sorry, I'm trying to read some of the chats here. It's a little hard to do. I think there's something about this that Trump wins, but I wonder how much Kamala does stay the president. I do think, though, the way that happens is some sort of a contingent election, and again, and here's the thing, guys. I want to just express something as a human being right now. I love my job, and everyone who loves their job is allowed to complain about their job. I want to slightly complain about something, and it sometimes feels like I'm yelling in an empty void. When I say there's gonna be Civil War stuff, I feel like people are like, oh, it's not gonna happen. And again, it's not the North versus the South is gonna hit, and all of a sudden, there's just this very distinct line. It's going to be more so factions. But I don't say that lightly. And I say that so you understand what's going on here. And I've also said too in my weeklies, hey, I see a lot of people being upset about Palestine. You are right to be upset, but your protests aren't going to work. Trust me, Israel lobby is a lot stronger than your silly little protests on that one. But you need to save your empathy. What do we feel like? For example, I have a question for people. Let's say, Trump, Kamala. Let's say Kamala wins, Trump contests it. And let's say Trump supporters go out in the streets and start burning things down. Do you think the U.S. military should shoot them? And what happens if the U.S. military does end up shooting them? Is that okay? Is that justified? These are the kind of questions I think we need to start thinking a little bit about. Is, okay, you can hate a Trump supporter. That's totally fine. To what level, though? Are we going to be okay with, because it's something really crazy about Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln pardoned everybody, except I think it was generals, but citizens that voted, which he could have not pardoned. He pardoned them. I don't know if we get that same kind of American respect with one another if something like that happens the next time around. It's my opinion. But yeah, I saw someone saying something about two sons. And again, I almost made a video about this. My only issue with Trump winning is if Trump wins, then we're definitely going to war with Iran, because he's too pro-Israel, which sucks. It really sucks. But it's okay, would I rather have one war or three wars? It really does come down to that, to be honest with you. And to be honest, I would rather go, I don't want to fight for Israel, but I'd rather go fight in the desert if I'm going to be drafted. And I think that's the other thing too. I think something that is really hard is I have a lot of women following, and I think women are totally allowed to be, like, again, whatever your politics are, whatever you're passionate about, you are allowed to be. I'm not even criticizing that. But it seems to be mostly about abortion, and that's fine. But when I bring up, hey, I don't want to go into war, people freak out about it. And it's just kind of like, just because you're a woman, you're allowed to be upset about not having access to abortion. Just like I'm a man, and I'm allowed to actually be upset about getting drafted into a war. Because, like, I'm going to die for that shit. And you might not. Like, but I think what's funny about women being more pro-war, which it seems, I know a lot more women that are pro-funding Ukraine, which is just genuinely interesting to me. Like, you guys are going to get drafted too. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that start waking up and being like, oh, wow, I'm a woman and I don't want to go to war. I need to flip-flop on that. Yeah, women do make up a lot of the military now. And I'm not saying women can't go to war. But it takes a specific breed. And I also think too, not a lot of these women are actually combat soldiers. So yeah, it's just how it is. So again, yeah. So Charity, study any war. Wars are not won without boots on the ground. Wars are not won without boots on the ground. It's not actually about drones. You're more than likely gonna die from a drone, or artillery, artillery that hit you because a drone spotted you. That's not how this works. I've told people I've gotten a lot more into guns, and because of that, I've gotten into it for a very big reason. Is I don't necessarily think a lot of things will be safe, and I want to be able to protect myself and my loved ones, and my family if I need to. And when you get into guns, you end up learning a lot about war. And yeah, you don't win a war without. We couldn't even beat Afghanistan. Like, you guys have to understand. Like, and I know this sounds hyperbolic and genuinely racist, but like, people in Afghanistan straight up fuck goats. And we spent $6 trillion of our military, and we couldn't beat them. Like, we had all these people, and we couldn't beat them. It's not as simple as like, oh, America will just walk in and do whatever. No, we have to earn our wins. And again, what's it called? I saw someone. Yeah, I'm Jewish and I don't want to die for Israel. And again, I think that's the other thing too. And again, that's what makes me upset about Trump too. It's just like, God, we really can't get, oh, is this an election prediction video? I said I've meant to say this as a frequent reminder. Watch at the beginning. My biggest thing is, number one, I don't plan on being right. Number two, I really think there's a part of this that Trump wins, but I think we go to a contingent election or some sort of a contentious, like, contingent is a specific thing that happens in the Senate and in the House of how we actually get to a president, and that's when no one hits 270 electoral votes. I do think if there was an election that could bring a contingent election, it would be this one. And if that happens, I do think Kamala becomes president. And I think that's actually what's going to happen. And so, look, and the reason I go to that is just straight up, it's not for Trump's chart. It's not, again, Kamala's chart's really, really telling. And again, the reason I say all this is, so I live in Denver, right? I live in Denver. Denver is really, really liberal, which is really interesting, right? I've been through all of rural Colorado. Colorado is owned by rich billionaires. It is blue. This state is blue. Here in Colorado, the rich people where I live in like downtown Denver, there's Harris Waltz signs everywhere. And it's all rich people, by the way. In this past week, I've seen 3 cars, and I'm talking beat up, fucked up, ghetto cars with poor people in them. And they have Trump flags. It's mind-blowing to me. Now, I'm from the Inland Empire, which is much more right-leaning, much more conservative. I've seen that. I've never seen that shit in downtown Denver. You're talking shit of poor. Like, this is not like, oh, like regular people. Like, these were like beat up fucking ghetto cars with big old Trump flags just straight up in the middle of downtown. And it was just like, that to me says something. There seems to be, and again, you guys have to understand, so many people think that Trump won the first time because everyone's a white nationalist Nazi. No, like that's not at all. And you like, it's such an elitist take. It's such an ignorant take to think that. You have someone who's literally saying the deep state is evil. Everything in the government is evil because look at everything that's going on. And that's resonating with literally half of this country. Like, it makes sense why people support people like Kamala Harris, and it makes sense why people support Donald Trump. And I'm tired of living in this paradigm as if it's like, what? How could you do that? And so anyway, I just look at this election as it's hard for me when I look at the pulse of this country. It's hard for me to think Trump is going to lose. But I look at the astrology and a lot more things say war. A lot more things say contention. A lot more things say challenges ahead. And when I place myself, and again, Kamala right now, as far as astrology, has the upper hand. But so did Hillary Clinton. So did Hillary Clinton. And we didn't have our time. We didn't actually have our time about that though. Anyway, so did Hillary Clinton. And I think this one's again tough. And this is why I was saying again, I'm just going to expect to be wrong about this. If, you know, let's say the election happens and I'm wrong and everyone's like, Cameron was wrong. That's fine. I would trust Trump over Kamala and I'm gay and poor. It's just exactly that's where I think most people are at. It's like, you know, genuinely just compare 2016 to 2020 you versus 2021 to 2024 you were probably doing better when Trump was president. And I think that's where it's at. And it's, you know, and it's not about hate. It's not about, you know, someone's like voting for Kamala. Sorry, I'm not trying to change your guys' opinion. It's just more of like, I genuinely don't think people have the clearest perspective on how all this works. And so there's something about Trump winning with this. I look around and I see Trump winning. I look at the astrology and I see Kamala winning. That's hard. That is hard to come to grips with. Does that make sense? Like, again, I would rather live in a Trump world than a Kamala world. But my perspective, you guys have to understand, is I don't look at that from, oh, who's better in terms of like, who do I like personality wise? I look at that as, I do astrology. We're going into war. Who is going to, and again, at the end of the day, economics aside, abortion aside, whatever it is, God, this fucking band is going off right now and it sounds really good, but it's really distracting at the same time. At the end of the day, I don't want war to happen. I don't want to get drafted into war. And I want someone that's going to not only de-escalate the situation or avoid it entirely, but if we are going to get into war, I want to win. Does that make sense? And so that's why I lean a little bit more towards Trump. I just think objectively his foreign policy was, objectively speaking, his foreign policy was great. Biden's foreign policy sucks. Obama's was better than Biden, but that's a whole other story. But long story short, I look around, I see a Trump win. I look at the astrology, I see war. So there's two things that aren't lining up to me personally. And so I see a Kamala win. I look at the days of the election, the day of the election following, I see contention. I see things, bad things happening. I see, again, what is a bad thing? I look at contingent election. I figure out what that is. And so just, that's what I think is going to happen. And again, I feel like, let's say, what if Trump wins more than 400? Dude, nice picture. What a gentleman. What if Trump wins more than 400 and Dems say they can't let him be president? I've thought about this too. Because again, people don't understand. They're trying to kill him. And you know, Nadia said you are not getting drafted. Oh, Nadia. That's so nice of you. Ask the 50-year-old men in Ukraine. Ask the 50-year-old dudes in Ukraine. The 60-year-old men in Ukraine that are getting drafted right now. This is a really funny. I'm going to come back to you. Gosh, Anubhav. I don't know if you guys know who Nick Fuentes is, but Nick Fuentes is a genuine white supremacist. And he was like, and he's like Mexican, and he was like, we should all vote for Kamala because she actually imprisons black people. So yeah, this type of dumb rhetoric, this gotcha rhetoric is just not reality. You're too white to get drafted, Cam. Nah, that's really funny. That's really funny. There's another reason why I've gotten more into guns, because if I'm going to get drafted and go to Ukraine, I'm fucking not dying. I'm not dying in Ukraine. I'm not dying in Israel. I'm not dying in Iran. I'm not dying. I'm coming back home. So, but I've thought about this. They've tried to kill him. He's had to, like, I just don't think we're allowed to have Trump as president again. And this is also why when I look at his chart, part of me wonders, this L1 period is this, when he dies, a martyr? Because you guys have to understand, if you hate Trump, that's fine. But if he gets killed, like again, if he got killed on that stage in Pennsylvania, he would instantly become a martyr in the eyes of his party, in the eyes of his constituents, in the eyes of his supporters. He would become a martyr. And we're so lucky he didn't die, because that would have just been like, oh, immediate war, like civil war, genuinely immediately. So again, I think this comment is interesting because I just don't see a way in which we have Trump as president. That's what's hard. Is like, I look around and I see so much more support than in 2016. I didn't know anyone in 2016 that was a Trump supporter. I don't know, besides like my stepdad and my mom. 2020, same thing. Now, and these aren't like, oh, I'm just now around different people. It's like Bernie people. Like, people who voted for Biden because they were scared are just genuinely like, that's fine. Yeah, and see, this is such a regular person take, and I love this. Like, people will think that, oh gosh, Kylo's clearly a white supremacist Nazi, but this is just a take. It's like, he's already been president, he's fine. I think we're gonna get into a lot of crazy shit, and I think he'd handle it better than Kamala. It's just that simple. What if Kamala became president by Biden stepping aside and Trump became president in April 2025? I've thought about this too. That's why I made a prediction video about this and I was wrong about it. So anyway, see, these are the funny comments too, is the Democrats steal. They have told you for like 30 or 40 years. They've told you for 30 or 40 years they're gonna codify Roe v. Wade. They're gonna protect Roe v. Wade. And they haven't. They haven't. Kamala Harris is saying that she's going to do it. She's not. She's not. They've been saying it for 30 to 40 years. And again, who's in the wrong here? Let's say you hire private security because someone's trying to steal from you. And you hire that private security. That private security says, I'm going to protect you from someone stealing from you. But then someone steals from you. And you look at the private security and you go, what the hell? You're supposed to protect me from being stolen from. And the private security goes, oh, well, now we're going to actually do it. We're going to do it this time. You can't be mad at the person who's stealing. That's just what they do. There was someone there that was supposed to not do that, to stop that. And that's exactly what the abortion thing. And again, at the end of the day, like, I'm mostly pro-abortion. I think the 9-month thing is absolutely ridiculous. And I think the idea that it's not murdering a fucking baby is also not living in reality. But like the how Roe v. Wade was set up was fine. It was fine. And at the end of the day, I can care fucking less. We're going into World War III. You guys aren't going to have men to get you pregnant to actually get an abortion. You're not. So it's like, what's the point? So anyway. Exactly. This is, again, there's a lot of again, this is why I fuck with the spiritual people, is they get it. There's all this divide right now. And, you know, people, I feel it. There's a reason I don't really fuck around with the astrology community anymore. Like, I don't really feel that connected to them because of this divide kind of stuff. I really wish I could show you guys. I mean, you would think it is so loud right here. I'd rather be murdered as a baby than an adult. Yeah. Someone said, please stop. I don't even know what you're talking about. This is a really funny thing. See, I take actions over words, and Trump had some of the most peaceful foreign policy. Like, sure, Jared Kushner was maybe having the nepotism of him doing deals was probably bad, but he literally almost had peace between Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Israel. Pretty fucking crazy. pretty crazy when you actually think about it. So anyway, I say this to say, I don't think this is like, again, some astrologers are going to predict it totally right and they deserve the credit. Astrologers are going to predict it wrong. I also don't think that they deserve, like, I've been doing this for a while. This is kind of hard. I think, again, there's something I look around and I look at. Trump has way more support. Astrology makes more sense for Kamala. And I think that's hard to wrap my head around. Does that make sense? I know a lot of people, I've had a lot of clients come to me because they've also been kind of, your fucking picture, by the way, because the astrology community is genuinely batshit insane. But they're literally like communists. Like, they're literally like, we love communism, and I don't understand it. I'm in denial if I think, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's not real. Again, there's what politics, like, for example, Trump is like, I'm not going to tax tips. He might say that, but is that actually going to happen? Chances are no. Just like the Dems say that they're going to protect abortion. They could say that. It's not going to happen. Like, I saw all the news articles that were like, Kamala Harris says she's going to legalize weed. That's what Biden said. And it's still not legalized. It's like, I think they did something to where it's like less, but it's like, I think like Project 2025 seems to be a real thing, but how much of it's going to get enacted? If you really think it's all just going to, it's not. That's just look at anything that any politician has ever said and tell me how fast or if it actually got done at all. So, oh, this is funny. What is this about? 2030. Okay, sorry. I totally forgot what Project 2030 is. This is so funny. I'm like, well, if you think 2030 is crazy, look at Project 2040. I don't know if I agree with this. I've been doing astrology too long to where I think it's a lot more fate. But anyway, yeah, astrology community is, and again, this is the other thing that's actually like really frustrating with the wider community is that if you just slightly question any sort of thing on the left, they outcast you and they attack you. And that's why, like, I try to have a channel that's like, hey, I lean more conservative. I think that makes people who have those views much more safe. But if you're a liberal, like, join the party. I'm not here to call you, like, again, I might be like, I think there's some things that are really ridiculous about it, but I'm not here to like be like, get the fuck out of here, sissy, snowflake liberal. But again, I just straight up like was attacked by friends of mine that, because again, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So anyway, I want to just come back to saying, there's so much in the air about, Cam is based. You guys have no idea how based I really am. I look around, I feel like there's an air of Trump winning, but I look at the charts and I just see Kamala winning. But I also look at it as there's got to be some sort of a contingent election. If she just outright wins, and again, this is why I'm like, you know what? I don't want to make this video, to be honest with you guys. But I wanted, like, there's a part of me that doesn't want to because it's contentious, it's, divisive, it's but again, this isn't that clear cut. But you know what I wanted to bring up real quick since I've got so many of you guys watching. So we talked about the Zodiacal releasing, right? We talked about the Zodiacal releasing, and this is why a lot of people think Kamala's going to win. You know who actually had a really crazy loss? Was Al Gore. Al Gore was peaking on every L1, L2, L3, L4. All peaks for Al Gore. And George Bush, nothing. He had nothing going on in the astrology. And Al Gore lost. Same thing with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon didn't peak until I think the year the Watergate scandal broke out. So he wasn't peaking, but I think, who did he run against? I can't remember. But anyway, so I don't necessarily look at the astrology as like, oh, just because someone's peaking, that means they are going to win no matter what. I look around and I feel like, wow, there's some air in the end. Like 2020, I predicted Biden was going to win. I was quiet about it because I was a little bit more of a pussyfoot around that point with my politics and my views. But I thought Biden was going to win, and he did. And I also think about change. I've told you guys, I've told you guys, everything changes. Who's the candidate of change? Think about this. Who's the candidate of change? It's Trump. It's not Kamala. She's not changing anything. So, but here's my issue. Here's my issue with Trump winning. Is what does this Civil War, World War III stuff look like now? Is it just war with Iran? Because it's more than that. So there's a level of yeah, here we go. Yeah. And again, this is why I said I think president, to be honest. Biden winning should show you everything about how astrology doesn't tell you about votes. No, I predicted that, but that was just off the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. I was like, oh, we're going liberal. So anyway, this is I like this because this is essentially where I'm at. Is I do think it's going to get to this point. And again, like here in Colorado, I just saw Jenna Griswold, who's just you could tell she's got big political ambitions. But there's voter tampering going on in Colorado, or ballot box tampering. There's ballot box tampering going on in Montana. It doesn't look good, guys. Like, when I take this, I literally mean this. If you don't have, again, like at least a couple weeks of food, a couple weeks of water, some extra batteries, some sort of gas, and genuinely having a gun, like I think you should. And I'm not saying that to fearmonger, like, oh my God, it's gonna be so. If you just have a handgun and like a couple rounds, if it was really that bad, you're fucking toast. And again, if it's really that bad, half of us, I'll probably die. It's just more so of if things really do get crazy, you may not necessarily feel all that safe walking to the grocery store or going to the grocery store, and just like, you just might want to keep it low. And I think that's more realistic of what we see. I think it would be a good idea to just have, like, again, I'm very emergency prepared minded. And again, like, for example, I've talked a lot about getting into ham radio. I bought some Baofangs, and Baofeng radios are what people in Asheville, North Carolina are getting by with. Like, people were just using radio to get supplies from people. And so, anyway, I look at it as, I just think things are going to get a little crazy for a while. And, I don't like how this is going to go. I don't like how this is, like, again, this isn't like, for example, if Trump wins, my mic is going out. Oh, it might be shitty Wi-Fi. This is really funny. Gavin here. Tampering might only happen in swings. It's, again, this is just people being upset and crazy. I think that's why. Gavin, you in here, bro? Can you guys hear me okay? It's not, I'm trying to go back to the days where you had my people in bondage. Finding me. Okay, good. Don't yell at me to look at the comments. I am. Where is this coming from? The what? I'm trying to go back to the. I can't tell if you're referring to something or being funny. Anyway, by the way, I have bad Wi-Fi. If I talk about it, you might genuinely see me punch things because it's a whole story. It's a whole story with my Wi-Fi. But anyway, the gun convo. Interesting. That might be it. I mean, I've got an FBI guy on me, so So anyway, I think those are really my thoughts at this point. I think my thoughts are, I look around, I see more Trump support than I think I've ever have. I look at the charts, I see war, I see contention, I see Kamala having quote unquote better astrology. So, bro, thank God, dude. Everyone, Gavin's here. Gavin's fucking here, bro. Anyway, you're telling the liberals to buy guns, Demi. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so I think, but I think Kamala and everything else is, I think that's probably what's going to happen. And again, I'm here to be wrong right now. I just wanted to talk about it so people aren't like, oh my God. Yeah, that is interesting censorship. Yeah, someone asked about FBI. Someone called the FBI on me, and so I've got an FBI agent, and I was going to I found out that you can get if you've ever had an investigation by the FBI, you can get that paperwork. I was actually going to see if I can get that, but you can't get it if there's an active investigation. Someone pretty much said that, I have guns and that I want to kill people. So someone called the FBI on me, and so I got a little visit from them, which sucks. So, yeah. And again, this is why, when I say like, when I say like, I hope you guys understand how scary that is to have the FBI on you. Like, that doesn't just like come off your record. Like me saying what I'm saying, like I've genuinely put my like life on the line at this point. Cause like what's next? Is someone going to dox me and then, federal agents raid my house and then shoot me because they can't see me? So just so you guys know, I know people are upset that, I lean a little bit conservative, but saying this stuff has genuinely gotten like, I look at being someone calling the FBI on me as generally putting my life on the line because I don't know how else to interpret it. It's not a game. So, yeah. So I guess my microphone's not working. I don't even know what to tell you guys because it's all fine on my side. I'll keep this up, I guess. Anyway, so I guess I'll just hang out for a minute. I mean, I've got a lot of. Yeah, someone said, hold on. Yeah, I really, really agree with this. Like, I think that's kind of like the most important thing right now is like, hey, things are going to get really crazy. Your neighbor's really not the bad guy. Really isn't. And again, the media wants you to think that your neighbor's your worst enemy. Yes, schizomath. I don't even know what this is about. I love schizomath. Yeah, man, hang out with us and your FBI agent. What do you think of RFK? I love the hit pieces on RFK. The whole like he killed a bear and put it in Central Park, and whatever. That only makes me like him more. Where I'm like, who is this psychopath? Like he sounds fun. I love RFK. Also his book about Fauci is wonderful too. It's really genuinely a lot. What is this schizo take? I'm definitely not saying that she is a better human being. They're all evil lizard people. Oh, maybe this is sarcasm. Whoops. Okay. Oh yeah, me and my Coke Zero. See, and this is where I'm at with it is like I just don't see them. I just can't see them letting Trump win or be president. But I look around and it's like, how else would that happen? I feel like I don't need to look at the astrology, but then I look at the future of astrology and it's like, well, if all of this war stuff's happening, like, could it be Trump? Yeah, but like his background doesn't really say that. So I don't know. I think this is actually really difficult. Kamala has better astrology, but I don't necessarily think that makes her the winner no matter what. Yeah. I know. You watch an Allison McDowell video and you're like, oh, like RFK again. RFK is it's something. Okay, at least someone is saying, hey, can we fix the food system? Thank you guys for the super chats, by the way. Much respect. Hopefully Mars transits over Saturn. Also, Mercury is parallel Pluto number 5th. Only happens once a year. Parallel. I don't know what that is going to be. Live streams are different. I'm allowed to say on a live stream. Someone also said, what about the inauguration day? So the next January 6th. Well, if you guys watched my Mars retrograde video, you would see that the Mars retrogress back into Cancer is on January 6th. Boom. You see that right there? Goes from Leo to Cancer on January 6th. So that's how I think this is. No, you've never picked it. We learned that in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders was supposed to be the nominee. They're like, nah, we want Clinton. And then Bernie Sanders was supposed to be 2020. They're like, nah, we want Biden. The Democrats don't play fair. They really don't. This is going to be more factional. I think it's going to, if you learn about the Troubles in Ireland, which was a period of like kind of a civil war, like again, you're going to go about your day to day. It's not going to be like the North versus South. If there's a civil war here, it's going to be more factional. It's going to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more. Again, this is why I've been learning a lot about this stuff. And I've really come to the conclusion a lot of it's going to look like the Troubles in Ireland, which is mostly like, hey, you're going to go about your day-to-day life. And then you hear about a politician, getting assassinated by a car bomb, down the street from your house. You're not affected. You're fine. You could totally live your life. But that's what that looks like, more than likely. Might have some troops down the street, kind of a thing. Yeah, Nicole, insurgencies. Exactly. That's the other thing. Like, no one's really going to get involved. Like, for me, it's just been like, I just want to protect myself. Understand, again, like, I've told people got more into guns because, like, one, I think things are going to get crazy. Two, I think they're going to ban guns, and I want my fucking guns. I'm a goddamn American. And I want to be able to protect myself. And I think the other thing is if I do get drafted, I need to be good with the gun so I don't die. Because I'm not dying in Israel. I'm not dying in Iran. I'm not dying in Ukraine. So anyway, I think that's how I'm going to wrap it up for you guys tonight. Just to, again, emphasize where I'm at is I look around. Again, number one, I'm going to just say I'm wrong. I'm just going to say I'm wrong. But I look around and I just see a lot of Trump stuff. And it's hard for me to not think that way. He's got a lot coming up in the future. Because even if Trump loses, there's something else big happening to him. So we got to figure out what that's about. Just because Kamala Harris has these peak periods doesn't mean she's going to win. It doesn't mean that. Al Gore had the same situation. I think no matter the case, again, contingent election, she wins. I think that's probably the more likely thing. And then after that, it's really like, all right, which war are we getting into? So if you aren't dying in Israel, Iran, or Ukraine, then you will be fighting a war somewhere anyway. There's one other place you didn't mention. Oh yeah, China, Taiwan. I don't think China, Taiwan's happening to the 2030s. That's the Saturn Uranus South Node conjunction, in my opinion, just like it was with World War II. Yeah, I've probably decided that too, but we'll see about that. So this is the other thing, guys. I really actually want to talk about this comment. I don't think anyone's going to believe the election results anyway. And I wonder, what does it look like when both sides, again, if Trump wins, do you think liberals are really going to believe that? I mean, again, liberals said Russia helped Trump. And that was proven wrong, but they still believe that. So it doesn't matter anymore. Oh, your autistic ass is getting drafted. They don't give a fuck about your little autism, or again, like, if you're trans, if you're autistic, no, your ass is getting drafted. That is how that works. Where I stand? Yeah. Well, that's a whole other situation. I'll have to look into this, but I do think it's going to be more like 2030. Wait, the Saturn Uranus conjunction in Gemini is what makes more sense to me. Yeah, I have my neighbors. Oh my God, my neighbors, they're so liberal, but I love them. I love my building. I have the nicest neighbors. They're absolutely great. And they're so liberal. And I love them. It's like, why can't, but again, I don't think they know my politics. So anyway. Oh, Inauguration Day. Oh, I was thinking January 6th, though. I'll probably have to look at it more. It's the moon square Mars. Ooh, it's Sun Pluto Day. Yikes. And Venus is not in shadow, but it's when the nodes move. Yeah, I don't know. Not that crazy. Yeah, I mean, the problem is a lot of 26 to 18-year-old kids are fat and autistic. They're going to probably end up again calling out, like, GWAT era soldiers back into the force first before they actually, and again, it's more than likely going to be based off of a health basis. So if you're a healthy male, they will draft you, and it's not really about 26. And again, ask the men in Ukraine. So anyway, that's funny. Oh, Kevin Blanco. That's for 2036, when the smart contracts are the Constitution. 2036 is when we change the Constitution. That's when that's happening. But that's not right now. What happens right now is the reason we get there, or one of the reasons, but that's not for right now. So anyway. That's interesting. But Mars is retrograding over his Saturn. But I think Antichos would be talking about are you sure he wasn't talking about Mars, Saturn in a natal chart? Yeah, Nicole, I already know about that one. So anyway, all right. It's easy to get distracted, but I actually have to get doing stuff. So, Jordan here to give you some from me and Jess. Leo King thinks Vance is getting in. That's interesting. What up, dude? I like Vance's chart. I find him very interesting. I wonder how. So I think I remember, because again, I think if there's a contingent election, like again, they bring up someone like Vance, that would be really interesting. But I think that also, again, I think that's a contingent election thing. So that's why I'm just kind of like, again, I just wonder how much. Again, that's why I'm like, I feel like I'm okay with being wrong. This is going to be a little bit wild. But contingent election is just where that's where I feel the most confident sitting anyway. But yeah, I guess we'll see that. Thank you. I take this as and there's so many things that I don't talk about.
I'd bring my, oh, honey. I'd bring my lip gloss and a stick of gum.
Yeah. Mike Johnson is a black horse. Yeah, Mike Johnson's interesting. Third Reich, Mike Johnson. Yeah, I don't know. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll end it there. All right, I'll end it there. Otherwise, I'm just getting distracted. So, all right, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments, and I'll be seeing you guys, watch the Mars retrograde video, and I'll be seeing you guys on Sunday for the next weekly. Ciao.